Creepy Joe trends on social media. To the left, liberalism is a religion. And the new pandemic in America is lawlessness. I'm Yo Grabba Gabba. This is the new Cancel This show. This is Cancel This, week of 4th of July, 2021. I'm your host, Yo Grabba Gab. This is Cancel This. Be sure to subscribe so you don't miss anything. Like our Facebook page, facebook.com/Pavement Road Productions. Subscribe right on the YouTube channel right there as well. You can email the show directly at pavementroadproductions@gmail.com. That's pavementroadproductions@gmail.com, just like it sounds. So, a little different format. We're trying some things differently. Obviously, having some computer technical difficulties, so we're trying a little different format. Hopefully this is a little bit better than the last couple weeks' audio quality. So let's go ahead and dive in here with, first of all, hashtag Creepy Joe. And so Creepy Joe Biden was trending on Twitter and on Facebook and social media. And he was trending because of his speech he gave, or I guess he answered some questions from reporters, and he went into his creepy voice. His creepy voice. I'll get to that more in a minute, but so obviously when Joe Biden trends on Twitter, Trump said mean things, tweeted mean things, and whatever. But now Biden is a creep, and they were saying Trump was a creep and a jerk and blah blah blah. And maybe he was, but Biden's no better. I mean, look at he's trending on Twitter and trending on social media as Creepy Joe. But that's and that of course is a misdirect like everything else, right? When Pence and Harris had their vice presidential debate, Pence mopped the floor with her, right? But because she's terrible, she's not good at anything having to do with political or anything. She's not good at anything. She has really no skills. So, and of course she had a couple of good lines. Mr. Vice President, I'm speaking. Thank you, I'm speaking. You're not saying anything, and you're not saying anything truthful, but you're speaking. So I guess that's fine. But of course, the trending moment from there was the fly on Pence's head, right? Well, when there's a fly on Pence's head, and that's what everybody's talking about, that the Democrat got destroyed. Because if the Democrat didn't get destroyed, and they did a great job, the media would have been all over it, right? The media would have been all over it. But of course, they can't be all over because the substance was actually terrible. So they have to talk about something else. In this case, the fly on Pence's head. So how does that all relate? Well, to relate to what I'm talking about now with Biden, right? So he's Creepy Joe because he said things. They asked him, some questions, and he said in a really creepy voice. They asked him, because employers are having difficulty finding people to work because they're getting so much unemployment. And he said, pay them more. Like I remember Ace Ventura, when the landlord is talking to him, and he goes, Ventura. And he goes, yes, Satan? I feel like that's how you should respond to Joe Biden when he talks like that, right? Yes, Satan? Oh, sorry, that's Creepy Joe. And of course he's creepy, and he says things in a really uncomfortable tone, and and that kind of thing. But that's more of the misdirect. The misdirect is he said something creepy in a creepy voice. But the actual substance is really what matters more. So not getting down in the weeds of, he said something in a creepy voice. That's whatever. What did he say in that creepy voice? Pay them more. Okay. Who are you to say that, Joe? You clearly never run a business. You've clearly never done anything other than being a public sector employee your entire life. Being in the government your entire life. Pay them more. Pay them more for what? Pay them. Places are already paying them people $15, $16 an hour, and they can't get anybody to work. So you pay somebody $16 an hour to do something that takes zero skill at all, that a robot could do, and now somebody with a degree is making $18 an hour. Well, they're going to want more because their job takes skill, and they have a 4-year degree to pay for, and so now everybody's rates are going up. So paying somebody $17, $18 an hour to work at Arby's or Burger King, what's the price of that food going to be? What's the price of the cashier? The cashier's going to lose their job. And and Thomas Sowell said there's a minimum wage and it's zero. So you want to raise the minimum wage, you're going to keep a lot of people's wage at zero because they're not going to make any money because they're going to price themselves out of the market. Employers can't afford to pay them. And the ones who get hurt the most are the small businesses. Because small businesses can't find anybody to work because they can't afford the overhead costs. They can't afford to pay somebody $30 an hour to do what they used to pay them $15 an hour to do. So, yes, Creepy Joe is creepy. There's no doubt about that. But his policies are creepy too. And they're the worst. And they're hurting people. Pay them more. Why don't you pay them, Joe? You are, and that's the problem. But you've never owned a business. You don't know what it's like to balance a budget. Clearly. You've never been in an executive office. You were a vice president. You were a senator. Senators don't have to balance budgets at all. They vote on things. But the executive branch is the one who does a lot of balancing of budgets, governors and whatnot. So what would you know about it? I gave them $1.9 trillion. Or billion dollars, whatever he said. $1.9 trillion. Yeah. You said in a creepy voice, the number still doesn't sound real. The next thing they say, I got him $126 bazillion. Or gentillion dollars. There's numbers, there's words. They don't even matter. It doesn't make sense. But again, he says something in a creepy voice. And they're talking about how creepy the voice was, not how stupid the policy was. So there we are. And of course, all the things he's saying it, it's fine, pay people a living wage. Well, a living wage is constantly going up when you keep raising the minimum wage. You're blowing up the dollar, causing the national debt to go way, way up. It's $28 trillion, the national debt. Can you imagine if you owed somebody $28 trillion, what would happen to you? I don't know how people like AOC who couldn't, who wouldn't know a budget if it was laid out in front of them. And she's saying, we're the richest country in the world. There's no way people should be living in poverty. Are we? We're $28 trillion in debt. And they want to, and again, Biden wants to add, $3 trillion to national debt for the next 10 years and then start paying for it? And then start paying for it? Right. Joe won't be alive then. If he is, is almost 90. So who's going to be paying for it? Joe? Not going to be you. So who's going to be paying for it? Add $3 trillion a year for the next 10 years and then start paying that down. Yeah, right. Okay. Not likely. But again, not your problem either. So let's go ahead and talk a little bit about the left's religion, the religion of liberalism. I mean, it is absolutely insane. It's absolutely insane. I mean, if you worship at the altar of Fauci, I mean, and I mean, I heard somebody say being black is being political. I mean, that's just silly. Everything is political to the left. Everything. Like, we hate this person. But they're liberal. So I like them. I really like them. They're conservative. I hate them. It's like that's so pathetic. I mean, I saw somebody in their Facebook bio, right? In their Facebook bio, they put down like their mom, they wrote mom or sister or whatever, basically describing themselves, mom, whatever. First one was like their job description. Second thing they put in their bio was Trump hater. Like that's like if you ask them to describe themselves in 3 words, Trump haters is one of the words, and it's hyphenated. It's insane. Like you're that, and it had an exclamation point too in it, right? By the way, of course. So it's like, well, I'm a white male cisgender Christian conservative who does this for a living. No. Number 2 most important thing in that person's life is they're a Trump hater. Like, you worship at the altar of liberalism. I mean, it's really quite pathetic, actually, quite sad. But again, I mean, you look at people who, I mean, for example, what was it, Joey Bosa from the NFL? He made a reference to something that may have indicated that he is a conservative, and then the liberals were cheering when he got injured. They tore his ACL, whatever, got injured, and liberals were celebrating that this guy got injured because he's a conservative. Like, what world are we living in? I mean, like, Israelis and Palestinians have more in common. I mean, they hate each other too, but like, you are actively wishing death upon people who disagree with you. That's messed up. I mean, people aren't that passionate about their religion, and as you guys are about your politics. It's crazy. You have to worship at the altar of Fauci. You have to, you know, everything that is said. Well, it depends on the person is, we like them or not, they're liberal or conservative. Like, I thought you were, you know, again, Caitlyn Jenner running for governor. Do I think Caitlyn Jenner would be a great governor of California? Probably not. But you'd think Caitlyn Jenner would get all the trans vote, right? All the trans LGBT vote. But no, because you have to be a Democrat to get that vote. You have to be in our religion. I mean, it is. It's very much a religion. You look at anything that anybody says, I mean, again, fact-checked by social media, and fact-checked into being wrong. The lab leak theory is just a conspiracy theory. Debunked conspiracy theory. Oh, really? Because it turned out it wasn't. You know, people are still wearing masks because the Delta variant's coming after you. Okay. If you choose to, that's how you want to live your life, you can do that. But people who don't live their life that way, it's like back in, you know, the 80s or whatever, when, you know, the pray the gay away stuff, right? With the Christians and the Catholics. You know, praying for people, you know, praying them for them not to be gay. You know what? If they're gonna be gay, let them live, you know, that's how I've been forever. Live your life the way you want to live it. But don't tell me how I have to live mine. Don't preach to me. I want to watch a movie, I don't want to be preached to. I want to watch a show, I don't want to be preached to. I want to listen to a song, I don't want to be preached to. I want to watch sports, I don't want to be preached to. Just do your job and shut up. Doesn't matter, you know, it's like you have to see it our way. Well, no, we don't. And we can still live in harmony. I can disagree wholeheartedly. I have people in my life I fully disagree with. Fully. But guess what? I'm not going to preach them. I'm not going to not associate with them because I disagree with them. We associate with them every single day. And our side, the right, is okay with that. We're okay with spending money on actors and actresses and musicians who hate us, who think we're swine, who think we're quote unquote maggots. Because they're so smart. They know better than us. They think. It's silly. But that's how it is now. You have to, you know, I mean, you have to be a Marxist. You know, if you're not on the left, you can't have an opinion. You know, you can't commit heresy by speaking out against socialism. I mean, they are, you know, it's indoctrination all day. You know, critical race theory. You know, white infragility. You know, that's their Bible now. I mean, that's how it's becoming. If you don't believe that, you know, all white people are evil and heterosexual males are the devil, well, then you can't exist in polite society. And we'll ban you from social media, ban you from other platforms because you can't have your own opinion. You're not allowed. It's not acceptable. Not acceptable to have your own opinion. That's silly. Like it's funny. The American flag is offensive. It offends people. We have to fly the LGBT and the BLM flag and all the other flags, every other flag that exists. But isn't the American flag supposed to stand for all of that? You're an Olympic athlete turning your back on the American flag because it offends you. Well, cool. Don't represent America. Can you imagine if you did that in China? They did a thing, person on the street interviews with people. They went up around people and said, hey, it was mostly Georgetown, a bunch of basically white liberals from Georgetown. The whitest college campus there is. Are you proud to be American? No, not usually. Well, why? Oh, because the last 4 years were bad. Well, why? Oh, because there's a lot of racism. Name one thing. Racism. And things and words. It's like, okay, well, what other country would you rather live in? I don't know, maybe somewhere in Europe. Okay, goodbye. It's crazy. But the American flag is offensive. It offends me. It makes me feel uncomfortable. Like I said, New York Times reporters were saying that she was in Long Island, so all these American flags, and felt very uncomfortable. Okay. Well, you don't need to be here. Goodbye. We have to have all of our own flags and all of our own things. Our own dogma. Okay. Because the American flag is not good enough. It doesn't represent me. Macy Gray, right? The American flag is offensive, she said. You knew this was coming. You knew this was going to be what was next. Martin Luther King will be coming really soon. They already tore down Columbus. They already canceled Columbus Day. It's no longer a day. We don't celebrate anymore. But they can't answer the question. They can't have a simple discussion. Well, why is America terrible? Why are you not proud to be American? Why do you live here? Where else would you rather live? They can't answer any of those questions. They don't know. Oh, because I heard my college professor said something about racism, so it's what it is. Oh, really? Because the African slave trade was a thing? Okay, well, do you know what? There's been every race on Earth has been a slave at some point. Just so you know. Like every slave. Every race has been a slave. When someone conquered a land, they would enslave the people. That's how it was back in the 12th century. But colonialism and stuff. Okay, so American colonialism. Well, America actually didn't colonize anything. It was settled by colonists. Well, there were indigenous people who lived here, yeah, and we fought a war, and the indigenous people lost, and then we just let them live here and didn't enslave them. That's crazy. Most wars, the losing side doesn't get to keep their land or part of their land, and doesn't get to not be enslaved. And not everything in America's history is great, but guess what? Name a country where everything's great. The biggest thing, the biggest reason that this is a cult or a religion is because they tear down all the other, they're tearing down the statues of all these people who aren't perfect. Okay. Because, Washington was a slave owner, and Jefferson was a slave owner, and Lincoln was a straight white man. How dare he? We have to worship at the altar of George Floyd. There's literally an altar for George Floyd in George Floyd Square, where there's shootings like all the time in George Floyd Square because there's no police allowed in George Floyd Square. So you're raising this man up. He's a saint. He's a saint. We're putting up statues to a career criminal and tearing down statues of people who founded our country. Barack Obama is the greatest president of all time because he's black. That's the only reason he's, what qualification do you need to be a president? Just being black. As long as he's the right race, who cares? As long as you're the right skin tone, who cares? As long as you have the right amount of melanin in your skin, who cares? That's all I need. Just be black. You can be a great president as long as you're black. That's all it takes. That's literally it. Be black. So George Floyd, who's in and out of jail like 10 times in his life, a career criminal, a dirtbag, got killed by a cop, and the cop acted poorly, and now according to the court records, broke the law and is in jail. Which, regardless of what actual laws he broke, is debatable. And the jury had a BLM activist on the jury, so of course they weren't biased at all, right? But either way, even with that, he didn't deserve to die, right? George Floyd did not deserve to die. He was saying, "I can't breathe," before he got on the ground. He was freaking out when he got arrested. Most people who interact with the cops aren't having a good day. I mean, just a thing, right? I mean, most people who are interacting with cops aren't having a good day. So people are already in a heightened state as it is. And then when you're on drugs, and then you're interacting with the cops, and now you're afraid to go back to jail again, you're gonna freak out. And then you take a lot of drugs, and then you die. But he's a hero. He's a saint. There's literally statues of him, bronze statues of him. For what did he do in his life? Like, Nancy Pelosi thanks him for dying. Like, he's like the Messiah. Like, he died for us. He died for Black America. Why? How? If you want to do something for Black America, how about you help with the teen pregnancy rate? How about you help with the graduation rate? How about you help with employment opportunities? How about we do that? Why don't we do that? No, we're just going to worship a man who died on the name of a police officer. That's what we're going to do. He's the patron saint. I mean, Nancy Pelosi takes a knee in honor of George Floyd and thanks him for dying. How messed up. And again, Jacob Blake, same thing. His name's on jerseys, NBA jerseys, right? Last year, over the summer. He's another one. He's another patron saint. He was. His ex-girlfriend called the police on him because he had raped her previously, and he was there against court order. And then he went to get a knife and was shot by the cops, and he's a hero. Imagine being her. Imagine being the one who he raped. Imagine being the woman who was assaulted by George Floyd. Imagine how they feel. That's why you can't worship humans. Humans are flawed. So let's go back to Washington. Let's go back to Lincoln. Let's go back to Jefferson. They were flawed people. No kidding. Who isn't? But again, the Declaration of Independence and the Constitution were written by flawed people. But the document itself is not a flawed document. Nobody's perfect, and there's things that you can always adjust. But when you start worshiping people who are alive on Earth, that's a problem. That's a huge problem. Major problem. Huge. Because people will fail you. People will let you down. It's the way it is. It's the way of life. Next thing, of course, I want to talk about is our lack of laws. So, I mean, there's so much. I could go on this topic just for an hour, just as it is. But the whole idea that the whole, Black Lives Matter and all that. There's people, and again, if you're a liberal, right? If you're a person who believes in liberty and believes in freedom, believes in the Constitution, believes in the rule of law, why is the QAnon shaman still in jail without charges? Why? People who burned, looted, and murdered over the summer are free. No charges, no fines, nothing. 0 charges, nothing. But this person who went in the Capitol building to throw stuff and break stuff is still in jail without charges. It's like Gitmo. They finally got somebody. They finally had somebody confess to a crime. This old lady who went in the Capitol building got charged and confessed to parading and got sentenced to community service. That's the hardest anyone's been charged with. Parading. Meanwhile, people burned, looted, and murdered all summer. $2 billion worth of damage. Nothing. Rudy Giuliani said that there was fraud, election fraud. Couldn't prove it. So the FBI raided his house, took his electronic devices, and took away, and then they took away his law license, his ability to practice law in New York. They canceled that. Meanwhile, Letitia James, the probably next governor of New York, who's the attorney general now, ran on, I'm going to get Trump. She ran on. Now, what was she going to get Trump for? It doesn't matter. Who cares? Find a person and put a crime on them. Get them for something. So she investigated him for 2 years. Since she's been attorney general, she's been investigating Trump. Guess what she found? Nothing. His CFO of one of his organizations got charged with a tax violation, which was basically filing the wrong information. And with something like that, you get a fine, and that's about it. That's the length of that. Of course, they had to have 1,000 police cameras there, or 1,000 news cameras there, and drag him out in handcuffs, of course, because you have to make a spectacle of it, because that's all that matters. Who cares what the law is? Who cares what the actual crime is? But the police aren't allowed to do their job. But we're going to find people and say, I don't like you, so I'm going to find a crime. I'm going to put a crime on you because I don't like you. They went after Trump again in New York for 2 years. They said, we're going to get him. They got nothing. Like always, like you knew they would never get nothing. They get nothing. Meanwhile, Biden admits to committing crimes in other countries, extorting the Ukraine. His son's selling access. All the politicians' kids are on boards of companies, and they're making millions and millions of dollars for access. Nancy Pelosi's kid, for example. But it's okay. Who cares? Shut up. What's a crime for one is not a crime for another. The police can't do the job. They're being told to stand down. Meanwhile, the BLM rioters who burned and destroyed things, they attacked federal buildings. They went into state, local, and federal buildings and burned them and attacked them. And they got nothing. Not even a slap on the wrist, not even a fine. Nothing. Meanwhile, we get an little old lady for parading in the Capitol building. Parading. Yes, parading. A crime that we didn't even know was a crime until, she was charged with it. Ridiculous. But there's no rule of law. And that's the biggest problem. How many people are getting shot every single week? A massive shooting again over 4th of July weekend in Chicago. Again. Lori Lightweight. Oh, people who criticize me are racist and sexist. I think it's because you suck. I think you suck. I think that's what it is. I don't think anybody's saying that you're a racist, or I don't think anybody's criticizing you because you're a woman or woman of color. I think it's just that you suck. I think a straight white man in your role would also suck. Doing the same thing, same job you're doing would also suck. And I say he sucks too. The governor of Oregon sucks. The governor of Washington sucks. Mayor of Seattle sucks. The governor of New York sucks. The mayor of New York sucks. Guess what? The mayor of New York is a communist, straight white communist. So, nothing to do with his race or skin color. He sucks too. He just does bad at his job. But you can't say that they're bad at their job because it's racist. And meanwhile, Governor Cuomo, of course, the esteemed Governor Cuomo, who, they're still looking into his sexual harassment allegations. If it was a Trump, you think they'd still be looking? No, they'd already have charges filed. And all the people dead in nursing homes, they'd already have charges filed. But Cuomo, of course, now that he's released, of course, when he starts getting sued, he starts, letting people go back to their normal lives, and you can do what you need to do now. You can go to ball games, and we're going to open up the state. Oh, really? All it took is you getting sued 100 times. And then, of course, now he has to give up some of his executive authority. Finally, he declares a state of emergency for gun violence. Yes, gun violence. Yes, because guns are just getting together in a group and they're deciding they want to go kill people, all on their own. They have the mind of their own. They're going out and shooting people. So take guns from law-abiding citizens. That's what you gotta do. That's how it works. If you follow the law, and you have a gun, and you buy it the right way, well, now you have to give it back. Meanwhile, if you're going to break the law and not register your gun, you're fine. Because we can't stop you from having a gun. So if you're honest and you do things the right way, you're an idiot. Basically what they're saying. You're a sucker. Meanwhile, don't pay any attention to what Governor Cuomo's brother is talking about on CNN. Or what he was involved in with the cover-up of all the nursing homes and the sexual harassment allegations. Yeah, because Michael Avenatti, he's a genius. He's great. He's going to help take down Trump, and he's on our side, and we love him. Oh yeah, and he just extorted Nike and he got 2.5 years in jail for it. And him and Stormy Daniels are going to be the one they're finally going to take down Trump. They're going to get him. But they're on the left, so it's okay. That news story completely buried. Avenatti gets 2.5 years in prison. Completely buried. Well, why? I thought he was on. Oh, because he's on the left. It's funny. Dinesh D'Souza was talking about it. He made a documentary exposing Barack Obama for the exposing Barack Obama and putting out information that Obama didn't want out, let's say. And then a couple months later, he's in jail. Well, that's weird. It's almost as if we have to find something on him because he's talking about us. He's saying things we don't like, saying inconvenient things about us. We have to put him in jail. Of course, Trump got him out and pardoned him. It's weird, right? The IRS spying on conservatives under Obama? Nobody even talks about that. Roger Stone? Again, nothing. Huge story. Roger Stone gets arrested. Okay, well, what did he do? Oh, no, it doesn't matter. Meanwhile, people are getting killed in the streets. Does anybody do anything about it? No, it's the gun's fault. Well, it's funny, because if a white man went into the place and started shooting at black people, it would be racist. But if black people start shooting at white people or each other, it's the gun's fault. So it's either the gun's fault or it's the white person's fault. It's never accountability to who actually did it. It's either racism and all of America's fault. So when George Floyd died, it was America's fault. It's America's systems. It's systemic racism's fault. Even though the cop was charged and never alleged anything racist at all, it wasn't even alleged by the prosecution. So when a white man kills a black man, it's racism regardless. It's America is at fault. But when a black man kills a white man or another black man, it's the gun's fault. It's gun violence. Okay, take away all the guns. If they want to kill each other, they'll find a way. If there's no guns allowed anywhere, bad people are still going to do bad things. It's not a gun problem, it's a human problem. It's a person problem, it's a people problem. And then you wonder why college students hate their country. They think America's horrible. Like celebrating 4th of July is like a bad thing. I celebrate. I'm proud to be American. I'll say it, and I'll say it again. America's had its downfalls and its struggles. We've also liberated a lot of countries. We've saved a lot of lives. World War II, World War I, Vietnam. The reason there was a South Korea is because of America. There'd be a lot more dead people if it wasn't for America fighting the Korean War and losing a lot of soldiers. Nowhere else in the history, by the way, America's such a horrible place. Name one other place in history of the world where white people fought other white people and died for the freedom of black people. I'll wait. So before you condemn America and say, oh, you're not proud to be American, why don't you actually think? You know, do a little of your own research, do a little of your own homework, and not just regurgitate what you're told. Some of the dumbest people on earth are the most educated because they're not taught to think anymore. They're taught what to think. Don't think for yourself. Just regurgitate these facts. And that's a huge problem. A huge, huge problem. Be sure to subscribe so you don't miss anything. Try to get this out every weekend. It's been about 2 weeks since we got the last one out. Had some computer issues and everything. Hopefully this is the best, better quality than the last one. Try some things, change some things up and see what we can come up with here. Be sure to subscribe so you don't miss anything. Like our Facebook page, facebook.com/Pavement Road Productions. It's facebook.com/Pavement Road Productions. Email the show directly, pavementroadproductions@gmail.com. Subscribe right below. Share the post. Tell your friends. We're getting some more subscribers coming in, which I appreciate, and getting more followers, which I appreciate. And definitely let us know what you think. Tell us, if you like the show, you didn't like the show. I'm open to all kinds of feedback. If you hate the show, you think I'm an idiot, cool. Tell me that too. I'm not going to silence you. I'm not going to delete your post. Because you have the right to say it. Even if I disagree with you, you have the right to say it, especially if I disagree with you. So subscribe, let your friends know, and share the post. Try to get this out again every week. Hopefully this new system works better. Thanks for listening as always, and we'll try to get in touch again next week. Until next time I talk to you, just gotta say, bye, Dan.